My view is that, we could talk until the cows come home about all the problems in South Africa. We have so much fodder to talk about, everything from leadership to, our favorite pastime on the leadership issues, Jacob Zuma this, Jacob Zuma that, and so forth. And we scared about Julius Malema and so forth. But the key for me about this country and 20 years down the line and 10 years down the line is whether the institutions are free, are independent, and can hold it together. Because if the institutions work, then, I can interact with you, there's a contract, and the contract is enforceable. If the contract is not enforceable by institutions that actually work, then we have a big, big problem. So, I loved the election because it had the noise, and then we had the institution holding it together, the IEC, and here we are, a month later, and fantastic, we go on because we have faith and belief in that institution. So I think it's absolutely key not to get into this negative funk, if you will, where it's all terrible because Julius Malema said he will nationalize the mines or expropriate land without compensation. Well, what is the institutional framework for that? What does the Constitution say? If those are sacrosanct, if those are independent, maybe he can, but within the rules of the law. And that is key for all of us, particularly people running businesses out there. I do think that what is going on in South Africa right now, vis-a-vis the institutions, the assault on the National Treasury, the attacks on the Reserve Bank, the use or misuse of the hawks, for example, the troubles around the South African Revenue Services, I think those are of major concern in the short term and in the long term. In the short term, we have a big issue here, and the issue is the ratings agencies coming back at the end of the year. And if the toxicity of our party political arrangements, the toxicity of the politics inside the ANC continues to filter out into National Treasury or the state-owned enterprises and so forth, there is no doubt in my mind that this will be a big issue. Because whatever you can say about, your books are looking good, who's running this thing? Who's running this ship? And so if Pravin Gordhan, Lesetja Kganyago, all those impeccable people at the top of these institutions are under attack, then, S&P, Moody's, Fitch, all of them will sit there and say, what's the point? You will not implement because your whole edifice is going to crumble, your leadership is bad. So I think there are some warning signals for South Africa in the short term on these institutions, and it's that we will be downgraded if we don't watch out. And it will take a long time to come back from that sort of action. So it's absolutely key for our leaders now and in the future, but now particularly to do the right thing. And the right thing is to let Pravin Gordhan, let Lesetja Kganyago, let these institutions do their work beyond them, after them, but not now. Don't touch them now. My view about business is that for too long, organizations that represent business have been quiet, have been scared to speak, have taken on a wait and see, hedging my bets kind of attitude. I think the space is open now for business people to speak, but also to participate. So if you ask me what are the things that have encouraged me this year, it's when those 100 chief executive officers flew down to Cape Town and met the president and the finance minister in January, February. It's the fact that people like all these banks, the CEOs of banks have put together a massive fund to create jobs, youth jobs in particular. I think those are the sorts of things that we can do and leverage off to build a better country. But we can't just talk about it, we must do it. And I think that's the challenge for business. And you don't have to go off as a renegade. The business organizations must be made to work to do that. We can't live in a country where there's so much disparity, inequality, poverty. unemployment. And so there's a big push from politicians for transformation. And I think one mustn't see transformation as an enemy of business. It's good for all of us. If I'm operating in Zimbabwe, I want Zimbabweans to be participating in my business. Same thing in South Africa. And we have to do whatever we can, all of us, to make that happen. So if we don't make it happen, we're putting power in the hands of those who will find a way to attack business. So business people have a responsibility. They also need to be a little bit more urgent about these things and not wait and see.